Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was just finishing up the AUMA resolutions. Give me 2 secs. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right. I only have one screen, so I'll be jumping back and forth. So honestly, if I don't recognize Ken or Natalie to speak, just speak up because I might have my agenda open in front of me instead of Zoom. So I'm going to actually pull up the agenda. Give me a sec. If anyone's interested, the AUMA resolution passed by like 95%. Not surprising.
Perfect, thanks. Sorry, I was in meetings all day. So I didn't have an opportunity to vote. Didn't even know I could vote.
Okay, so attendance at the start of the meeting. I see everyone here. Call the meeting to order. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll do it.
Ken, go ahead.
That the June 18th, 2020 agenda be adopted as presented.
Sorry, I need to turn up the volume on my computer. All right, go ahead, Ken.
Sorry, I got it here. That the June 18th, 2020 agenda be adopted as presented.
All right, for accepted, did Kevin, Percy, did you guys have any additions that you wanted?
I don't believe so.
Okay, Natalie or Ken, you guys are good? All right, accept that motion. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right. I think we're gonna have a fairly long meeting, so we're gonna do the minutes real quick. Can somebody make a motion to adopt the minutes? Natalie.
If Tamara tells me what to say really quickly, I can.
It's in there. It's in the chat.
That the June 11, 2020 Emergency Management Advisory Committee minutes be adopted as presented.
All right, thanks. Call for the vote. That's unanimous. Okay, we're going on to provincial update. Let's do our best, Percy, to keep it brief because I think lots of this we're aware of. So let's hear it.
Just for the provincial update, currently there are 39 souls for COVID-19 within the province. Of those, 10
There
are
are 2 mics on.
says it's on. Is it working now? Can you hear us here?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Currently there are 39 souls in the province for COVID-19. 10 of those are municipal, 29 are First Nation. For EOC activations, there's 127 municipal EOCs activated and 4 provincial ones for a total of 131 activations. In the province, as of today, there are 7,530 confirmed cases of COVID-19 with 486 active cases. In the Edmonton zone, there are 201 active cases and 747 confirmed cases. Within St. Albert, the latest information there is there are 30 confirmed cases, 1 active case at the current time. Within the province, there was 48 new cases yesterday, and currently hospitalized are 38 and 7 in ICU. The Government of Alberta COVID-19 relaunch status map has St. Albert identified as open with no additional measures. And that's where I'll leave off the provincial update, just to keep this brief.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Any questions? The only one I have, Percy, and you might not even know the answer, we had 30 cases, 30 recovered, then it dropped down to 29 cases, 29, is that just reassigning of addresses?
We don't get that detail of information from the province. It's the level of information we get is basically what you see on the website. you know, in terms of thing, we haven't seen anything in terms of a hospital outbreak in St. Albert, because we're aware of those pieces here at the current time as well.
Okay, I see no more questions. So you have an EOC briefing.
Correct. Just for the EOC briefing, we're currently at 97 days in response to COVID-19 for the Emergency Operations Center, and we can continue to operate on the core value of safety of residents and staff, property safety, and environmental safety. The Emergency Operations Center continues to monitor provincial guidance documents, press releases, and briefing to help plan with reentry. As discussed last week, we're planning the provincial guidance documents, and they are we're continually having to review those documents because significant changes are noted on those documents with notification or change in versioning. For one example, the swimming pool, the swimming pool one actually changed three different times with no versioning. We're continuing to share information with our regional partners and municipal contacts across the province to help provide us context where St. Albert's plan sits with other municipal plans. We've been working with our partners and leaseholders to facilitate the re-entry through reviewing their relaunch plans. The following groups have been supported this week: Arts and Heritage Foundation heritage sites, their visual arts at St. Albert Place, also the Visitor Center, the Kinsman Banquet Center, the Paper Arts Guild, the Painters Guild, and St. Albert Curling Club. We are continuing to plan on the city reentry strategy, and significant work has occurred this week with recreational culture facility reentry planning. Later in this meeting, shortly after this, we'll be discussing the recreational facility planning document. And next week, we'll be bringing forward the cultural facilities as well. The things we know will affect the relaunch are facilities that are currently under maintenance. Kinex Arena is under maintenance until July 5th, and Jerome McGinley is under maintenance until August 3rd. Fountain Park Pool's under maintenance to July 13th. We're also planning, and we're well underway for this planning for moving the EOC from the present physical environment to a virtual environment, which will continue to monitor the situation and provide support as the city begins to re-enter with both staff and facilities. And that's the update for that.
Wow, when I said go fast, you're taking that to heart, Percy.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I know we have a lot to talk about, so that's good. So any questions, Natalie, Ken, from this briefing? Oh, wait, first of all, David wanted to jump in on a little bit on the provincial report, but I didn't notice it in the chat. So I'll let you do that now, David.
Okay, sorry, I'm unmuted now. Yeah, I just wanted to point out, many of you may be aware of this, probably most of you, it may be for the public as well who may be listening. Last Friday, just before the expiry of the provincial public health emergency, the CMOH issued one order that kind of blew away almost all the previous orders that she'd issued. And there's a couple of what I call specialty orders that are still in effect to do with things like addictions facilities, continuing care. Last Friday, just before the expiry of the provincial.
Why are we getting the feedback?
Emergency, what was that?
I don't know.
It sounded like, my evil twin was echoing me there.
Go ahead, keep going.
Just sounded
so
like somebody was on YouTube and it was feeding back to the YouTube because it's on delay.
It's all very interesting. So anyway, the point I was trying to make is that apart from a couple of the specialty orders around things like airport protocols and special rules for addictions facilities, the only one there's only one now really in effect that directly affects municipal operations. It's the one that came out last Friday. And it basically says that with 3 very narrow exceptions, none of which I don't think apply to us, anything goes, anything can be open. But it does say that it's subject to, you have to follow the guidelines, and the magic words are to the extent possible. So I am preparing now a bit of a legal briefing for everyone on what that means, to the extent possible. But I just point out that really all the various different types of facilities, everything that council covered in its motions is now, the province has said you can open it. So just so everybody knows that we're now it's a question of how do you do it safely? How do you do it in a way that minimizes our risk? But there's really nothing that affects us that the province has said has to stay closed.
Okay, interesting. Natalie.
Thank you. So thank you for letting us know about that. I didn't know that change had happened. I'm curious to know if that means that kind of the capacity for indoor outdoor events is now out the window. Is that what happened?
That's correct. There's no more distinction between indoor outdoor events.
Okay, and the 2-meter rule is gone as well.
Now I say no more distinction in the orders. It used to be in an order, right? Now it's all in guidelines, and all of the guidelines again is that we follow them to the extent possible.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Ken.
That confuses me then. I just want more clarity. Basically on that, we could open up we're going to have this discussion next, but hypothetically, we could open up Service Place and not be bound by the 50 people inside our rec facility then?
Well, as I say, I'm going to be giving you a legal opinion shortly here. You'll probably get it in about another week or so. I'm working with external counsel on it as well. This is a very important issue, right? The clarity around what to the extent possible means. There are still guidelines in place. I don't want to pretend there are not guidelines, but those guidelines are subject to what I call those weasel words. And we really need to understand, the extent to which we would be liable if we don't follow those guidelines strictly. That's really important information. That has to do with costs as well, right? So we will be, legal is we're doing our best to get you some really, as much clarity as we can, given that the province has given us some fuzzy language.
Well, I'm worried about being trapped in the situation because, obviously if we, well, we can talk about it. You can see I have a lot of concerns about that because, obviously if we decide that we're just going to use the guidelines as goalposts, then we could have Canada Day celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
other than the costs and the associated trying to do it. So I'll look forward to the legal opinion then, because that's interesting.
Okay.
Challenging too.
It is.
When do you think you'll have that legal opinion, David?
I expect to be able to share it with council a couple of days before I think it's the committee of the whole discussion next week.
Okay.
I'll try to have it sooner, but I certainly will be before.
No, that's fine.
You'll have it in hand to consider, along with so many other things you have to consider.
All right. Okay, let's go back to Percy's EOC report. Somebody had a question about that. Did they not? It's all been answered. Okay. Okay, moving on. Okay, let's talk about recreation facility reentry plan.
So we're going to put a PowerPoint up for you to go through here. So we'll share that screen with you so you can see that. This planning document that we provided you the other day to look at before this meeting, all the work that's been done on this has been based on the guidance documents that are out there until legal advice changes anything. So all this planning has been based on those guidance documents. So today we're really here to present the recreational facility reopening plan. Diane Enger, the Director of Recreation and Parks, is here with us, as well as Diane McMorty from Finance, so that and other members of the Emergency Operations Center are here as well to help assist with any specifics and any questions you might have on as we go through this. The presentation itself will include background information, an overview of the public facility reentry plan that you're aware of, the recreational facility reentry plan, and specific details related to a number of different facilities that we could talk about at this point. And then we'll also have some alternatives for consideration that we'll go through here. As we go through this, we'll provide you a brief overview of actions that have kind of led us to the point where we're at right now with recreational facilities reopening and the recreational facility reopening plan. As you're aware, the recreational facilities were closed because of the COVID-19 situation on March 13th this year. The provincial relaunch plan was announced with stage 1 beginning on May 14th, 2020. At that time, recreational facilities were identified to open in the provincial plan at stage 3. On June 9th, the stage 2 relaunch was announced to begin on June 12th. And recreational facilities were advanced to reopen in stage 2 instead of stage 3. The Emergency Advisory Committee met on June 11th, and we were provided with some guiding principles in the creation of the facilities plan, on which we are presenting today. And those guiding principles that were agreed to at that time were: outdoor facilities will be prioritized over indoor to the extent feasible. Facilities will be brought back when they are ready, using cost recovery to the extent possible, identifying what regional partners are doing and consider the impacts on our decisions. Where possible, prioritize reopenings to meet the demand of user groups. Identify impacts to service level and resource capacity in the considerations. Also, identify organizational risk and responsibilities, which David is working on at the current time, and will be providing that brief in the near future.
Just confirm they're seeing the slides.
Are you seeing the slides as we're going forward here?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay. So for this slide, as you see, this is the one that's been updated on a regular basis with the facility reentry plan based on the provincial stage, identifying what's open at the current time, and with this we can really see that the Ball Diamond Sports Fields, Fowler Athletic Park are open for spontaneous use. Those boat docks and a number of other facilities throughout the city are open, as we've discussed previously in this forum before. And we're also working with those partner facilities and leaseholders to help them re-enter and resume their valuable work within the community. And we know that they're actually very engaged and want to be involved in that and getting back in their facilities. This next slide shows what we're presenting here as a phased plan for reopening of recreational facilities.
Do you want us to wait for the presentation to be completed before we ask questions on specific slides, Madam Mayor, or do you want them to present and then go back?
I would entertain either. Percy, would you rather we wait to the end?
If you have questions prior to the reentry plan, that would be good. If we could present this kind of as an initial chunk, it would probably help provide some context.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Okay. So for this plan, the Emergency Operations Center and Recreation Department have worked together developing the phase plan for the reopening of the recreational facilities. A number of additional factors were built into the plan development, including consideration of staff that need to be recalled from either layoff or redeployment, and the impact on existing service delivery within the city. Also required facility COVID-19 health and safety modifications, confirmation with sports partners, their needs, and also identifying and getting some clarity with the associated provincial guidelines for the different sports agencies. The phased approach to reopening will allow for the city to be responsive to provincial changes and COVID-19 development, and allow us to gain a full understanding of the impact of the provincial guidelines as we move forward through this plan. The plan outlines a number of timelines for reopening of facilities. Facilities identified on the green section on the far left include the first facilities that are currently open: Fowler Athletic Park, and the sports fields for spontaneous use, the city tennis and pickleball courts, the outdoor playgrounds and outdoor fitness facilities. Also, you see in some of the other green points, the outdoor fitness programming that will commence next week. That was discussed, and guidance was provided here, as well as the Park Champions program that was discussed here as well. Then you see those blue areas, and those are areas that we will be looking at later on in this presentation, just as specific facilities that could be reopened, with it kind of showing you some background information to help understand what the impacts of opening those different facilities. And the proposed dates for opening Larry Oleksiak Field, and then for booked city ball diamonds, not for spontaneous use, but booked in the week of June 28th, July 4th, and then in the week of July 12th to 19th, Woodlands Water Play Park and beach volleyball. As you see, there's kind of a yellow bar in there, and that's to provide a break for identification of more financial impact of the city's larger facilities, and provide recreation and parks time to work with finance to give a more detailed perspective on those different facilities, and to be able to return and plot those timelines with that financial analysis, guideline clarity, and completion of COVID-19 health and safety modifications, and the staff recall processes that we discussed previously. The remaining timelines remain tentative at the current time, with these dates placed for here on this timeline. So Service Fitness Center and indoor arenas planned for July 19th to 25th. Service Place Fitness Programming and Fountain Park Recreation Center Aquatics and Aquatics Program being planned for the week of August 2nd to 5th. Jerome McGinley and Kinnick's Arena planned for August 9th to 15th. Service Place Indoor Turf and Community Gymnasium planned for the week of August 16th to 22nd. Service Place Aquatics and Community Clubhouses being planned for the week of August 29th to September 5th. Then on the far right, where it says date to be determined, are amenities such as indoor playgrounds, steam rooms, hot tubs, child minding that are plotted against the provincial guidelines and identifying user needs. Many of those were identified as phase 3 in the provincial relaunch strategy and guidance documents. If we can flip to the next slide here. Larry Alexiak Field is one of the facilities that we're talking about here, and the checklist against the guidance that was provided is what's up on here, and as you can see, this one checks all the boxes on all the different guidance documents from the perspective that was observed here. Larry Alexiak is proposed to reopen the week of June 28th to July 4th. And this facility would have a modified service delivery that's outlined in the facility plan, and have health and safety modification and COVID operational practices in place prior to this opening date. In order to operate the facility for 2020, seasonal, casual, and permanent staff will need to be recalled to ensure safe and efficient operation of the field. And this has some impacts on staff that were potentially redeployed in areas such as public works. The facility currently has 216 hours booked with opportunity to take on additional bookings as the facility reopens. For this facility, administration is recommending that this facility is approved for re-entry for the week of June 28th to July 4th within the existing 2020 operated budget, with proposed variable expenses of $23,700 and an estimated revenue at $15,100 based on existing bookings. These costs exclude non-variable costs for facility operations such as insurance and utilities. The next one is for ball diamond bookings, and this is for booked ball diamonds. There's 6 outdoor ball diamonds are proposed to reopen for bookings the week of June 28th to July 4th. These ball diamonds will not require health and safety modifications and can be implemented in the time frame discussed. These diamonds represent user demand that has been identified by Recreation in consultation directly with their sport partners. In order to operate this facility for 2020, no additional casual or permanent staff are required to ensure this delivery. Administration is recommending that this facility is approved for re-entry the week of June 28th to July 4th, 2020, within the existing 2020 operating budget, with proposed variable expenses at $14,100 and estimated revenue at $12,000 based on current bookings. These costs exclude any of the non-variable costs for operations such as insurance. The third facility, the Woodlands Water Play Park, is proposed to reopen for spontaneous use the week of July 12th to 19th. And you see that there is one box that's checked, it's marked with an X as opposed to a check, because this facility is a spontaneous use facility. And that's the only reason that is marked with an X in there. This facility will have a modified service delivery that's outlined in the operating plan, and health and safety modification, and all COVID operational practices in place prior to opening. In order to operate this facility for the 2020 season, casual and permanent staff will need to be recalled to ensure safe and efficient operation of the Woodlands Water Play Park. Once again, this has potential effects on other areas within the city, such as public works. There are a number of challenges that have been identified in the operation of this facility that should be understood. It was noted that pre-residency checks or pre-booking could be considered in the operation of this amenity. These options have been investigated and have been determined and deemed not viable for a number of reasons, including administrative viability, public viability, and regional considerations for other operators and relationships with the other municipalities. Administration recommends this facility is approved for re-entry July 12th to 19th, 2020, within the 2020 existing operating budget, with a proposed expense of $49,000 for the operating season. We also have other alternatives to consider, and this is more for discussion. Ultimately, administration has the capacity to provide one detailed financial service assessment in time for the council's meeting on either the 29th or the 6th. Right now, we have worked on the version that allows for conservative delivery throughout the summer, and the alternative that administration believes is the preferred model. However, should the Emergency Advisory Committee wish us to proceed in another direction, we have the following alternatives for you that you see up there. Number one would push reentry to align with corporate staff in other facilities across the organization. So it would push all the facilities back by 2 weeks. So everything would just be delayed on that timeline by 2 weeks. Number two, as you can see, would be reduced service levels in aquatics and arenas, delivering services out of Fountain Park, commencing the week of August 2nd, and Kinex the week of July 19th, and Aginla the week of August 10th, and then followed by a full service place reopening August 31st. Another option would be to delay fitness center openings to align with other service place facilities. That would mean the only operational space and service would be the ice services to begin with. And we'll put this slide back up here to help with discussion, and this is where we would like to have discussion with you that would help provide us some guidance.
Okay, I know Ken has questions. Ken, you can start.
All right, thanks. Yeah, burn the last slide.
Yeah.
The questions that I had were just around, and maybe I didn't want to get down into the detail, but the service place, the fitness center, does that include the walking track, or is that because just for clarification, we do have a special category for the walking track now. So are you including the walking track opening the same time as the fitness center opening?
So Council Mackay, yes, we are looking at opening the fitness center and the whole track area as well. So the whole fitness area and track.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted clarity on that. I wasn't sure whether the walking track was was being treated separately or included in the fitness center. So I appreciate that. The city ball diamonds, the number 6 is how many actual ball diamonds do we have that we use for like for ball teams, things like that, that are actually can book them? Do we have more than 6, or is that the number that we normally use?
Yes, we definitely have more than 6. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking around 18 to 20, but I can get you that exact number. 6 is chosen, the number of ball diamonds was chosen based on the demand from the user group. So baseball has opened their facilities, so Legion Ball Diamonds. They're able to run all of their program there, so they're not looking to have any city ball diamonds. It is St. Louis Fastball that is looking to run their program, a modified program throughout the summer, and is requesting some of the shell diamonds for their program.
Okay, so it's just being driven basically by the demand. It's not basically, it's not by our capacity necessarily, although it does help with our capacity.
It's definitely driven by demand from our sport partners and their requirement for program.
Okay. The spray park opening, and in particular, last week we talked about one of the challenges in the guidelines put forward by the province around spray parks, spray decks, swimming pools, is water testing. Have we got any further information on the water testing requirement or clarification around that?
So every year we do the water testing, so that hasn't changed. It's whether or not there was capacity within the lab. And what we do understand is that the labs have opened up to take on municipal or private water sampling and testing. So we believe that there will be capacity there, but we're still looking into all of that and determining sort of how long that will take. So
right now, is there any maintenance going on at the Woodlands Water Park?
So because this was stage 3, aquatics and recreation facilities, we didn't think that we would open our spray park this summer, so we have not done any work there. However, if council made the decision to move forward with the spray park today, we would start tomorrow. We're ready to mobilize. We would move our infrastructure staff over there, and we could have that complete in 2 weeks, this full flushing of the system, cleaning of the park, and just getting it ready and COVID ready as well within the timeline we've identified.
Is that possible to enclose that? I mean, right now, like you said, it's spontaneous use and it's easy access from a number of different locations. Can you close it off a little bit more if we had to observe like 100 people only, or whatever number we felt it was safe to use the facility?
Actually, the water park is fenced and there are restrictions around numbers of users. It is 100, and we have been out measuring, and we can actually accommodate 100 users within the park. So it would be a spontaneous but a queued process where we would actually track the number of people in the park, and we would have to hold the number at 100, and people would have to wait if there was more demand than that.
Right. So that would require more. How many staff would we use in a normal summer there?
So 2 staff at one time is what is normally there. So we can continue to manage with the 2 staff. One would monitor the gate, and one would monitor the overall park and compliance to distancing, as well as additional cleaning that would be required, as well as, again, looking at our equipment that's there.
So there's, so the timeline of July 12th to July 19th, that's just primarily because if we approve it today, it will take you 2 weeks to get everything ready. If we approved it today, you couldn't open it in 1 week, let's say.
Correct. It will take us the 2 weeks to get the facility ready to go, as well as recall our staff, get them retrained with any of the modifications based on the guidelines, and have it all ready to open in 2 weeks.
Are those staff that you would have to recall, or are they currently redeployed in other functions within the corporation?
The staff that we would use would be casual staff, so they've been temporarily laid off, so we'd be calling those ones back. We have one aquatic staff that has been redeployed that we would need to call back to this position.
So potentially it would just be whether or not they could come back or not, and when. The Fountain Park maintenance, is that on task to get done in the time frame like July 13th, I think it is, you said, or is it a little later? Is that moving forward okay?
Yeah, so it's our annual shutdown work that we would do every year that we have been doing through the month of June. We would have to redeploy some of our infrastructure staff to the water park to get it ready to go. So it would delay a little bit of the Fountain Park maintenance, but we would be well within having the maintenance complete at Fountain Park for an August opening of Fountain Park.
An August opening?
Ken, I just wonder, so Diane, did you say we didn't start the maintenance until June?
Well, we did Service Place first. We completed that at the end of May. We moved over to Fountain Park through the month of June, and have been doing the maintenance and life cycle work over at Fountain Park throughout June.
Okay, all right, keep going, Ken.
No, I mean, I think, you know, I'm just asking just for clarification, because we're, as you can imagine, just like you are probably, Diane, we're getting a ton of pressure to open up sooner. Is there any, and it might come back to, I guess, talking to Diane around the financial capacity, but can we pull in some of our casual seasonal staff earlier, or prepare them and do the training and prior to the opening, so we're not, or is that part of the plan anyways in the staging of it, so that when we can open up in August, it'll be ready to go? We don't have to wait for staff to come back. We're going to be pulling back staff earlier, giving them the necessary training that they require for COVID and potentially whatever else if we need new lifeguard training. But will they all be ready? So it'll be ready to go August 2nd.
So one of the criteria in putting this plan together is a whole milestone chart in terms of what pieces have to happen before we open. So of course it's the facility life cycle work, then it's the COVID modification requirements, bringing the staff back. We need about 7 days to recall the staff, and then depending on the facility, 5 to 7 days to train them, and then we can open. So the training, the recalling and the training of the staff has all been built into the proposed timeline.
And
Though, is it in conjunction, or are you doing the maintenance and then calling the back, and like, or is it happening now while the maintenance
Yes.
is?
So
Okay.
it can happen in parallel. We're just not recalling staff too early. We're just making sure that it's in alignment with the proposed timeline or the approved timeline.
well, yeah, and I think the Mayor Herron is trying to think the same way I'm trying to. I'm trying to say, if maintenance gets done early, can we open early?
So my understanding is we need 2 weeks to open the water park, 2 weeks to do the maintenance on the water park. So it'll take 2 weeks to do that work. At the same time, we will be recalling staff and training them. So that will be happening simultaneously. It does require 2 weeks. However, we could work overtime through the weekend and try and open up earlier potentially. It was a conversation I had with the manager of recreation infrastructure, but it would then potentially be additional costs to get it open a little faster.
Right, but what about Fountain Park? So I mean, so let's say, and I have no idea what maintenance we're currently doing there. So, but can we hire our staff earlier for Fountain Park, even if we have to put them over into the water park to help with whatever needs to be done to prepare that? I'm obviously I'm not knowing what that is. But I'm just saying, are we able to hire staff earlier to help out in other areas so that we can open up Fountain Park early if maintenance gets done, or to help with the maintenance that needs to be done in the pools, because I don't even know, I mean, I don't even know what the guidelines say around the pool opening, but let's say we can't open showers or something in that line. Like all we can do is open up the actual tank. We can't open up the slide. We can't open up anything else. Can't open up the hot tub. All we can do is the tank. If we said we can open up the tank, can we open up earlier?
So that is all the work we're doing right now. So we're looking at the modified program delivery for aquatics. So it is all of those things you spoke about. How many people can we put in the pool? How do we move people safely in and out of change rooms? How do we queue people? How do we lifeguard people? And how do we, what kind of, is our program structured program versus spontaneous? Because there was some changes in the guidelines around whether or not we could actually do public swim versus lane swim or structured kinds of programming. So we're working through all of those details right now. Based on the plan that's here, we would be prepared with staffing by the beginning of August. I think that that's probably, that's our recommendation based on this timeline, based on the work that's required, and based on a bit of a phasing. If we didn't want to open the water park, we could focus more on Fountain Park and potentially having it open earlier. But again, it is a timing and a planning of work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to see if we're all ready to go, can we, I mean, if things happen faster, and again, I don't know what the maintenance is in the actual Fountain Park, but could we open it sooner? But it looks like there's this sequence here. So anyways, I'm sure Councillor Jolly has some questions.
I sense the three of us are itching to go as fast as possible, I guess, if that's, I mean, I'm sure you all echo that. So before we go to Councillor Jolly, EAC can approve what's in front of us today. Is that correct? Maybe David has to answer that.
Yep.
We were told last week that we could not.
Oh, I missed that. I was there. Why not?
Because we're an advisory committee, not council.
But we delegated our third. David, I'm confused. I thought we delegated the authority to EAC.
Yes, just hold on a second. You're talking about the authority to do what again?
Just the plan that's in front of us on page 9 of this PowerPoint. Yeah. So do we need it to go to council, or can EAC approve it?
EAC can approve it. Remember though, that pursuant to the order that came out last Friday, there's really, I mean, I see what you're getting at. It's not a question of what can open, it's a question of when and on what timeline. Yeah, that I don't believe that EAC has that. No, in fact, I know that power has not been delegated to EAC.
Okay.
What you have two things you can do under the original.
Today on the blue ones.
Right.
Yeah, because like the first bar, June 28th, that's to July 4th. That's before our next council meeting.
Oh, that's correct.
Yeah. So if we want Larry Electric Field to open on June 28th, do I need to call a special council meeting?
I don't think council needs to approve this at all. I think
Okay.
if you express your opinion, I think the CAO can just make it happen.
That's what I thought. Okay. I'm just confirming that. And then,
within his natural person powers to do that. Yes.
right. Okay. And then if we start, moving Fountain Park as a priority over Woodlands Water Park, that's fine too.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Jolly, do you have any questions?
Oh, I've got a few.
Okay.
My first one has to do with the timing. So I understand Water Play Park needs 2 weeks to reopen, but I'm confused on the math. If we're good to go, 2 weeks from now is July 2nd, not July 12th. So can you explain how that math was done?
So it's based on giving the go today, then it would start on Monday, and then it's 10 days, working days, and then to get open, you could probably open on July 12th. So I think that's pretty close to 2 weeks.
Okay, why didn't we start last week?
Because we didn't have authority, so we didn't believe that it was good work to pre-do that if we didn't know that's what you wanted to open. It would have taken our staff away from the work that they're doing at Fountain Park, and we weren't sure if council wanted to open the Water Play Park.
I'm confused because I thought it was pretty explicit that that was a priority.
Well, definitely, it was a priority. Some of the time frame here is associated with bringing some of the staff back and that sort of thing, and doing this planning and seeing what the timelines we could do. So this is actually the plan you have in front of us is essentially, it was developed and finalized as of yesterday evening. So you're getting a very fresh plan in front of you here today.
Okay, Mike's next question. Diane, you mentioned that the limit for the water play park is 100 people. So I know that was true a week ago, but Mr. LaFleur has explained that that's no longer true. So does that mean we no longer need our staff to kind of police numbers, and we could just kind of say, these are the recommendations from the province?
Yeah, the guidance documents actually have that number affiliated with the guidance documents.
Yeah, so I understand that. So, but because it's not an order, can we just say this is what the recommendations are that for the province, so that we don't have to have that kind of extra burden on staff?
That would be something more for David, though,
Yeah.
not for Percy.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. Whoever wants to answer that.
Okay, I need to suggest that we go in camera to have this discussion. And when we do,
Okay.
and we're going in camera pursuant to section 27 of the FOIP Act, which is privileged legal advice.
Okay, Mayor Herron, I've got other in public
Yeah, I was
questions.
gonna say, why don't we, put that on a sidebar note for when we go in camera, and because we might add to that list, and I don't want to go in and out and out and out. Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
It doesn't have
that's
to be
great.
right away. It doesn't have to be right away, but.
So my next question is, in terms of getting things up and running again, so I understand we've got rec staff who are out cutting grass and whatnot, so it kind of takes time to call them back. Is it possible to let our standards for, can we let the grass get long to get this kind of bumped up in terms of priority? Is that an option that we're considering?
Have you not heard what Edmonton's going through with their long grass?
I know the residents are being awesome though. It's awesome. I love it.
I
I'm
thought
pretty
we
sure
were
their
letting
council
her.
would disagree, but we're not proposing 21 days, are we?
No, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, good question.
So I guess in terms of the staff piece, within Rec and Parks, we only have 10 staff that are redeployed to PW for outside work. A lot of it is recalling casual staff, so it's working with HR to recall casual staff and then retrain them. So that takes various time depending on which facility we're opening. So part of it is the staff piece that is important to look at in terms of the amount of time we need to bring people back.
Okay, so not really, like that wouldn't help out at all, is what you're saying. Nobody's gonna answer that. Okay, Mr. LaFar, I would assume this next one is probably gonna be for in camera, but in terms of having the staff being in charge of compliance for, the 2 meters and things like that, and I'm thinking specifically at Water Play Park, I just have questions about whether we're required to do something like that. Is that best for in camera?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. What else do I have here? In terms of the farmers market, have we been in touch with the Chamber of Commerce to see how easily they'd be able to move back downtown if Service Place was opened, or if that was necessary?
We've discussed with the farmers market developing a contingency plan based on potential earlier reopening. So that discussion is underway, and I don't have the exact details on that total discussion for you here, but that discussion has been underway with the chamber.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my last question about Water Play Park is, in terms of service levels, I know for the last many years we've had staff there both in charge of like the actual, maintenance, like making sure the water is running properly and the water is filtered every once in a while. Have we considered reducing service levels in terms of the first aid monitoring, that kind of thing, to kind of, so we're not spreading each other so thin?
So the budget for this year is based on what would be required based on our understanding of the guidelines to operate the facility. So it would be, based on the guidelines, it would be our responsibility to ensure that there were no more than 100 people in the water park. So that was one of the functions. And the other was, we do need to have someone, they have said, someone on site who can provide sort of overall awareness of people, social distancing, physical distancing, those kinds of things, and additional wiping down. So based on how we believe we have to operate the water park this year, we would require 2 staff, which is the same number as last year. However, they would be doing different functions. Going forward, though, we could look at how many staff we have at the water park.
So I'm a little bit confused about that because we've opened up parks, so spontaneous use parks. We don't have people wiping down equipment.
Right.
There's no order that says that we need to have someone standing at parks telling kids to stay 2 meters away from each other. So what is the difference between a park and the water play park? Because from what I understand, there isn't.
So my understanding from the guidelines is this is more like a pool as opposed to a playground, because it is water filtration and circulation. And so we do need to monitor the number of people that come on site. So I know, talking with my regional colleagues, everyone's challenged with the spray park because a lot of them don't have fences, and so you can't actually control numbers. So I'm not sure how they're going to meet the guidelines without being able to monitor how many people are in the park. So it's a bit of a challenge.
So why is it that, as far as I know, we're the only municipality in the province that operates a spray park with staff that do that? So what is unique about our facility that requires us to treat it like a swimming pool?
Well, because the water is recirculating, so it's like you said, the filters, the chemicals, we need to ensure the water's balanced, the chemical balance. Spruce Grove also operates the same, it's a similar, because it's the mechanical system for the spray park. Some other municipalities have just spray through, so the water drains right into the underground, so it doesn't require the same staffing or management of the infrastructure.
Okay, I've got a few more questions, but Mayor Heron, I don't know if you wanted to jump in, and I'm sure you have a list.
No, actually, I don't have too many. You guys are covering a little bit what I already had. I think it's more of a statement than a question. For me, the Woodlands Water Park is a huge priority. And so if we actually have to put some money in the budget to do some overtime on weekends, I'd love to see that. And I say that just because, you know, we prioritized last week at EAC to work with sports partners and the sports groups. So that's organized sports, but the Woodlands Water Park is really the one place I think that our parents can go that's outside, and you don't have to be registered in a soccer program or whatever. They can just go and play. So for me, it's a huge priority, and I don't know what that would look like financially to ask our staff to work some weekends, but I think this community would be really excited to see that open as soon as possible. That's all.
I just have one more, if that's okay, Mayor Heron.
Keep going.
So,
Yep.
So my last question is about the sports fields. I don't see anywhere on here kind of maintenance of sports fields to the sports standards. And from what I understand from SASA anyways, is that they don't really require that. But I guess, have we had those discussions, and have we decided to kind of forego maintenance at that level for 2020? Can anyone comment?
Yeah, so with our sports fields for our soccer program, we have been in conversations with SASA around that. So they have opened their facility, and they are operating their fields, and they are running their programs on the 4 fields that they have down at their park. In our conversations initially, they said that would do for their program, as well as if we open Larry Lexick Field, it will also accommodate some additional turf, although artificial turf. It could also accommodate some additional use by soccer, and football's looking at starting up a program on other users. So at this point, they haven't said that they needed additional sport fields, like city sport fields, maintained. However, they said they would use them spontaneously, like they have been over the last month or so. So we continue to have dialogue with them to make sure that we are providing what they need. And again, all the sport partners very quickly too had to adapt their programs. The guidelines changed very quickly for them as well. And so they're all trying to figure out what they can offer, what the interest is, and how they can get their programs going in the next few weeks and over the next couple of months. So things are changing daily based on what the sport partners are able to deliver to the community and what the demand is.
Okay, thank you. So I guess related to that, if we could add to this reentry plan, the stuff that we're not going to do. So it sounds like we're not going to be doing the fields to the sports standards, and Grosvenor's not on this list, which I mean, I support. So if we could just make note of that, so we don't have those kind of hanging questions, I would appreciate that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Is it okay if I skip ahead into August, into the gray bars? Okay, Diane, that's probably for you. So July 19th, the 25th, you have indoor arenas scheduled. Is that just the time it takes to essentially put the ice on? Is that why it's delayed?
So it's several factors. One is again just getting the ice in, and again we were not putting any water or ice in until we had approval for our plan. So it's putting the ice in, it's recalling the staff, and it's also looking at the demand from the users. So we usually have 2 ice surfaces 12 months a year. We of course have canceled all of our ice bookings till the end of June. We do have some ice bookings in early July, but the majority of the ice demand starts the week of July 19th. So we thought to maximize the revenue on this, starting July 19th would be able to provide the most use to our users, most efficient in terms of our operation and costs. And we have over 1,400 hours of ice currently booked for July and August. Right now, those are bookings that are in our system, and we have another 25 to 30 that have been calling us requesting ice. So we do think there is a strong demand for ice. But for the 1,400 hours right now equates to about $280,000 in revenue for arenas.
Okay. So essentially, because there's not a lot of bookings in June, you can use the staff elsewhere and maximize the July, August. I mean, I'm fine with it. I was just curious. And of course, the other 2 arenas, Jerome and Kinex, are due to the previously pre-COVID construction.
So correct, Jerome is actually under construction. It'll be open, we'll just need to find the exact date that we'll get it back from the contractor. And then once we have it back and all the FAC is in place, then we can start to build ice and go from there. So we're anticipating that's August 3rd. If there's efficiencies by having only ice open at one facility, not both. Our normal summer, we would have had Kinex open mid-July, and then we would have had 2 surfaces at service. But this year, with everything being shut down, our recommendation is just open up the ice at service and then just open up Kinex and Aginla when they're ready to open and the demand is there, which is little.
I feel like the message needs to get out that those 2 arenas are not being delayed because of COVID, but it's because of construction that we needed to do that was long before decided. So, and then Service Place, the indoor artificial turfs aren't till the mid to late August. Is that just because there's not a lot of use in the summer?
Right, it was based on demand and where we felt and timing and phasing, so that we weren't starting everything all at once. And as we get to talk to more of our sport partners, so if we go forward with the ice at Service Place, there may be a need to open one of the fields earlier as we're talking with our sport partners that have hockey academies coming in. Also, we understood that lacrosse was not going to run their program this year, but now that again all the guidelines have changed, where there may be a program in lacrosse coming, which then might look at kind of fields that we need and when. So basically, this was a bit of a phased approach. So based on the best information we had at the time from the demand and the sport partners' needs.
Okay, but those fields, to me, they seem like a simple. There's not a lot of touch points. There's
Right.
water, so you could move those forward if there was some requests.
If there was demand for those, and if we were opening service ice arenas, we could easily move up the fields and book use on the fields at the same time as the ice.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
And really with this whole the whole gray area and that, it's all about booked use, because that's truly what the guidelines have been talking about. The facility is designed for more of those pre-planned booked use activities.
Yes, and to just add on to that, Percy, good point. The booked use is where we like, we can understand what our sport partners needs and what the community needs are. The booked use is less risk because we can actually know what we need, and then the revenue and the expenses are easier to determine. When we get into more of the spontaneous use, which again, in the guidelines, spontaneous use was very challenging with the guidelines and the distancing. So what we're proposing is program structured use first, and then hopefully, as we go along and the guidelines lift, spontaneous will be much easier to provide later on in the phasing.
Okay. Any idea when phase 3 is going to happen? Anyone heard any rumors?
Not so much in terms of rumors, but I think one of the big telling features for us that will be kind of a predictor for us is whether there are a significant increase of cases of COVID for the protests that happened kind of a couple of weeks ago. So I think this weekend, early next week, is really a telling feature that will kind of guide some of those provincial decisions on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I saw Ken's hand go on.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Just clarification in relation to the gray areas again and the word tentative. So is tentative just based on future guidelines being lifted, or based on a decision that EAC makes today? So specifically, if we say, yep, go ahead, move now, then does this mean that allows administration to just kind of just move it along, and if the guidelines change or if demand changes a little bit, like we've just heard from Diane, they can just move it ahead? They don't have, so the word tentative is not related to anything from the provincial guidelines or the chief medical officer, but it's more related to whether there's demand, whether EAC approves it, and whether we can get staffing.
In a lot of ways, what the yellow line was put in there as kind of a gate to give council a financial assessment and allow for there associated with those timelines and that as well.
Good, Ken?
Sorry, I apologize. I clicked my mute button. So I'm just picking up on what Percy was just saying around council. So I guess I'm the yellow being the gate. I'm not sure. I guess I'm not sure what we would like. What does council need to do? Is it just around funding? Is that
So I'll help out
funding?
here.
Yeah.
I'll help out here, Councillor Mackay. The decision is not whether we can open facilities or not. The question for council will be, can we afford to do these things?
That's
That's
right.
what's coming
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's kind of what I wanted clarity on. Thank you.
Yeah. So essentially, I feel like EAC can make some of these decisions in front of us, but if there's a financial impact, then we need to get council approval. Although if the financial input can come out of the 2 million we've approved for COVID, would that work, Kevin? Like overtime to open up Woodlands?
Well, potentially, but I mean, recovery is being charged against that, and I'm not sure of our current financials, but I believe it's about 1 million of that is spent right now. I don't know if the EOC has an update. So
I was more thinking of timing,
mm-hmm.
right? So because we're not meeting now as council to the 29th, I don't know. David, can we add an emergent item to the public hearing agenda, the special council meeting on the 22nd?
We'll be ready for the 22nd.
First of all, my apologies. I just heard your question. I got cut off. I was away for about 2 minutes. I've just been able to reconnect. So not knowing what you're talking about, yes, you can certainly add an item to the, which one are you saying? Add an item to which meeting?
To the special council meeting on Monday for the public hearing.
No,
Okay.
you can't do that.
We would have to wait. I would have to call a special council meeting, or we would have to wait till the 29th. So, but as long as there's no financial impacts, we're good. All right. I see a hand up. Percy, go ahead.
Just recreation and finance need some time to bring you all the financial impact of all these dates. And that's why we had placed the date of either the 29th or the 6th to give them the time to build some of those financial impacts associated with it.
Yeah, so I was just going to jump in. So the plan was that on the 29th, we'd be able to bring back more detailed financials on the first 3 gray bars to kind of give you a sense. And then on the 6th, the last 2 gray bars, because they're a little bit farther out.
Okay.
And I think what we're looking for today is just general agreement on the timeline and the phasing, because then we can work on those financials once we have a little bit of clarity on that.
Okay. All right, I'm fine. Lost Ken. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right, I think we need to go in camera now. Oh, Natalie, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just had a couple questions. I guess first just a comment about the programming starting out as kind of registered programming, it sounds like, before we go into spontaneous use. I think that makes a lot of sense. So kudos to the team that put together that. My last question has to do with kind of the regional ice situation. So Mr. Scoville, I guess if you've got your hockey parent hat on, I don't own one. So yeah, I can't, I'm the person who runs into the boards to stop. So with the bears and pandas being out for 2020-21, does that impact the availability of ice kind of regionally at all? And I don't know if other post-secondaries are ducking out of that as well.
Well, you know, I think my experience with a college hockey team was they tend to practice outside of non-peak hours, so they'll practice.
Okay, so probably won't have an impact on ice.
Probably not not for peak hours, probably.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is would there be any, I guess the fitness center at Service Place, we're waiting on that more because of the financial details. So if we're ready to move ahead with whatever financial situation that is there an opportunity to get that open sooner?
So I guess that's really why we're here today, is we'd like to understand from you what you'd like to see happen first. If fitness is important to open, again, we're working on those numbers to get you the detailed business case in terms of the costs. So if fitness is a priority, we'll absolutely make sure we have that for you. And if we know that's a priority, we can start to work towards some of getting that fitness center ready to go. We didn't want to move forward on doing any of the detail work until we knew that in principle you agreed with the timeline. The other piece though is if we want, we can push fitness back and open service altogether at the end of August. So again, it was based on sort of what council felt was timing of facilities, and to Mr. Scoville's point, we want to bring you back the financials so you have good information about the utilization and the costs to deliver these services.
Yeah, that financial piece makes sense. Then last question, for the plan to do registered programs, with the idea to be giving St. Albert residents that, I think right now we do like a 1 week pre-registration thing, is that kind of the intent that would happen kind of across the board?
So in our service delivery, we would look to maintain the service standards we have. So currently that is our policy, is that we would have St. Albert residents have a week first of registration before other residents. We could continue with that same process.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, please do, Diane. Yeah. I mean, we're already getting lots of concerns, St. Albert residents, about the spray park, you know, because it's one of the better ones in the region. And if Edmonton's not opening theirs, I don't know what their plans are, but they're worried about St. Albert residents not having space at our own play park. So it's a concern out in our community. All right, I think we're going to camera now. Ken, you unmuted?
Yeah, I'll move till we go into camera if you're ready.
Right. Yeah, it's
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. That committee move in camera to have a confidential dialogue in accordance with provisions of section 27(1)(a) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous. I will meet you in Teams.
Yeah. Yes, I am there. Can you hear me? Yes.
Kathy, do you want me to move that?
Yeah, the three of us are here, so we can do that. Go ahead, Natalie.
That committee reconvene in public.
All those in favor? Okay, Tamara, did you get that recorded? Okay, and then can you do sorry.
The details of the in-camera discussion remain confidential pursuant to section 153E of the NGA.
Okay, all those in favor? Excellent. Okay, there's Kevin. It's like we're doing all this stuff without any staff around. Tamara, you're in charge. Acting CAO. All right. There was nothing coming out of in camera that it required motions. I'm seeing nothing that requires actually motions at all for today, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. On to see, do we need to continue to have the conversation about whether we need a SOL or not?
I recommended earlier this week that just come off these agendas. So if you're okay with that, I see no reason why it should continue to be on these agendas.
Okay, I would say the same thing. I mean, if something changes, we can get a recommendation from staff to do it, but let's just keep it off from now on. Natalie, you wanted to talk about what to expect on the 29th?
Yeah, so will we see something in council on the 29th? I guess is my question.
Definitely, we would have a very, this whole timeline there, and you would see very similar documents to what we had for those previous facilities in terms of the information, to help you make those decisions. And do you have more to add with that?
So yes, we're committed to bringing the next three buckets, the gray areas, so service, place, fitness, and the arena piece, and Fountain Park. So we'll bring detailed business cases with the costs, utilization to that meeting, and then you can have that information at that time.
So costs that are going to be presented are going to include things kind of that are included in the provincial recommended documents, so hand sanitizer, that kind of thing. Is that kind of what we can expect?
Right. So we've been doing detailed business cases that include all the direct costs to deliver that service, as well as all of the additional costs that are required based on making sure our facilities are COVID compliant.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Ken.
Just really quickly, just for clarification then, for me, for the June 29th. So if that comes in with all the costs and it's approved, then work will start to move forward into the gray area. It's not going to happen based on the conversation we're having today. Like,
correct. So
right.
We have we'll continue with the life cycle and maintenance piece that will be done, but we won't be filling pools or putting in ice until we get the approval from EAC to go ahead with these tentative timelines.
Council actually then. Yeah, sorry. So it'll be council because it's dealing with some finance situation. So, okay. But the rest of the chart that we had, the left-hand side, we're moving ahead with those things.
The blue ones, yeah.
The blue ones?
And the Woodlands Water Park. Okay.
So that's what was that an affirmative? We're moving ahead with those?
No, sorry, I shouldn't answer that. I thought it was, but go ahead.
Based on the information we have from David and the recommendation on your part that we move forward with that, we would be moving forward with those pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's my interpretation, Madam Mayor, and you said we don't need a motion on that. That's moving ahead. So that would be my direction.
Me too. Natalie's too, I think.
Okay.
All right. The next thing on the agenda is really the schedule. Are you guys proposing a change?
No, we're not proposing a change. Just for the next meeting, we would have information on cultural facilities for you here to present in a similar manner as this presentation.
Okay. Of course, if there's any recreational decisions that need to be made that don't have financial implications, we could talk about that next Thursday as well. Something arises that wasn't covered here that got forgotten. So, all right, we will meet again next Thursday, the 25th. All right, is that it, everybody? Okay, meeting adjourned. See ya.